The Wes Penra Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The First Level of Learning. wespenry.com. Present and Future Challenges, PFC, Section. PFC Paper Number 3, New Revelations on the Story About the Wing Makers, the Labyrinth Group, and S.A.A.L.M Part 3. 6.1 S.A.A.L.M Secret Conversations Leaked. SAALM, with their headquarters in Pine Gap, Australia, is an offshoot from the ACIO, with the whole purpose, as mentioned earlier, to keep Marduk's clan in power after Nibiru has passed through the solar system. Pine Gap, near Alice Springs, Australia, has a bad reputation, and is known for alien and UFO activities, especially reptilian. It's not a place you want to go camping. There are also a lot of global elite research and experiments going on in the area, such as Echelon and Project LUCID. Most of it is orchestrated by a faction of the Earthbound Anunnaki of the Serpent Clan, possibly in cooperation with a faction of the Alpha Draconian Reptilians. SAALM were using a secure server to communicate to their members, where they could speak more openly. However, Casbolt, most probably, decided to put their conversations on the internet so everybody could read. He was successful and at least some of the communication leaked out. I'm going to post that information here, so the reader gets a fuller picture of this organization, also because SAALM apparently have now closed the internet archives pertaining to their correspondence. First, a few pictures that were attached to the information. P6 Intro. Intro. Brothers. Welcome to the S.A.A.L.M. We have our work cut out for us. Please download attachment form on which we ask that you provide us with certain information on yourself. This information will not be shared with any patrons or funding sources, present or former employers, or anyone outside the group. The information gathered therein will be used to catalog talent within the group, suggest assignments to new members and invite old members to task forces, focus groups, analysis conferences, etc. In other words, it is intended for decision-making on deployment of talent within the group to tasks as they may appear on the horizon. We hope to have an information system set up such that a server not connected to the net but accessible through gates can store all group production by member, so when specialty and talent needs to be identified for any one or more tasks important to the group, this may be quickly by the stroke of a few keys. Additionally, upon consultation with Foundation Legal Counsel, it has been determined by the first among equals that any work performed by anyone, of any nationality, for and on behalf of SAALM will require strict compartmentalized coverage under certain chapters and parts of the Code of Federal Regulations, CRF, and other congressional acts and laws. We will handle highly sensitive information without the benefit of formal clearance vetting, therefore, each of us need to sign at minimum a non-disclosure agreement that describes what our legal advisors require S.A.A.L.M members to be covered for. Shortly, you will also get a security indoctrination memo from one of us. This will address item number 2 in the non-disclosure agreement following the CV questionnaire. This is information with you, in compliance with legal requirements set for us to go by. We have established a non-vetting status for S.A.A.L.M members to receive and work with what is essentially information of a classified nature. Non-vetting means that there will not be a lengthy background check process, and that much of the responsibility for keeping the ranks free of checkered characters and egomaniacs falls on us, the founding members. The suggestion has been made, and the first among equals and some of the first members agree, that the first 50 members be declared founding members, a distinction that constitutes more of a badge of courage and wisdom about the necessity for S.A.A.L.M and the personal valor for being a stand-up and be counted kind of person. We will need to have these documents back as soon as feasibly possible. Keep copies for your records but off the desktop. Again, welcome brothers. Work is ahead of us, but let's have fun doing it. In service to all. P6 XXXXXXXXXXXX P4 Update. Task members. I am going to invite you to log in onto the Psalm group, go to the Files section, click and get into the Orion_Sirius_Asmodeus folder. Once in, to the Exercise 1AWAG4B0032 Word.doc, download it and follow the instructions at the end of the file. We are using an identical strategy here to the one used in getting our own folks to gain perspective, on and discernment of an information set, and then subject the intellectual extract, of what you are able to gain from your analysis of the set to your other brain's intellect and see what happens. What will be interesting for us to learn about all of yourselves in doing this exercise? When you start dealing with real information on things of interest to the group, I need to know you will have the meta method in place and your visceral nose is working and fully engaged. We'll also get to see throughout these exercises how much, how well, or how little, you trust your enteric brain, its information processing and your trust and use of the information it generates for you. Makes sense? Tell me your views and feelings on the task. CA3 continues his and the team's trek. His location is not related to his tasks, but rather it is a necessity for him at this time. He is proceeding on down to the next location, and once over onto the other. We're heeding his recommendation and taking them in tandem. Recruiting continues. We pick up 7 and lose 3, due to the CV/NDA requirement. The team you belong to is still short of people, but it will come. The 2 others are beginning to work on T&D assignments, such as what you are starting now. For the next 12 months, we'll slowly bring everybody up to PAR and up to speed on things, and once 2D is in your hands, allow about 3 to 6 months to have people get into accelerated learning. From the inside out, not the other way around. I am enclosing a relatively new article to one and I did a while ago, as it is pertinent to some of the questions you raised about enteric info processing and AL. It is actually a presentation on the basis of life physics, with particular attention to 4 space-time reality matrices. I have a feeling it will help you understand things a little clearer. P4. PA Alpha. Subject, Pre-application from Alpha member for working group. FYI, this came to P4, P5 and myself today. I've polled the others, and have their agreement that Roman Candle would be a good addition to the working group. He is member of Alpha Group, Traveler 1, DTs, and Ravens Group. I was also forewarned by DTs that Great Waldo, the fellow with the Anunnaki gold from the Rothschild line, is also interested in joining, but have not heard from him yet. Anyway, below please find copy of his message to P1, P2 and P12. G07 Chief Scientist. G09 Project Officer. Membership Pre-application SAALM. Working Group. This is my pre-application for membership in the SAALM. Working Group. I am sending this pre-application by advice of my Alpha Phi, Traveler 1, and per conversation with P3 on September 3, 2006. You already have my CV and I have signed all documentation required earlier this year. I respectfully petition membership in the working group. I have contributions to make that members may find helpful, and I am ready to do my part in the effort. Sincerely, Roman Candle. Since this is pre-application, that means he is announcing intention and testing the waters. He's the orange. I will put together a summary of what he submitted, and as he is an engineer at the lab, he is covered by things you are not covered for, so let me get around that and see if I can get hold of his CV and possibly a resume, at least of things you can see. We need to vote on this. Good enough? Let me know as soon as possible, so as to be able to give him an answer to what I understand will be a formal application once he hears from one of us unofficially. In service. P4. Dear GA2. Thank you for calling last night. I'm afraid that this is what happens when I get stressed past a certain point, and it is evident to me and my family that things have gone way past what I can cope with and remain functional at this point in time. I'm sorry I was not able to truly listen to you. Could you please put the substance of what your assessment of the present situation is in an email to each of us? Before I continue, please let me update you on the situation with the man in St. Joe with the terminal colon cancer, I believe it was the 4th of this month that we found out about him and prayed for him. Yesterday, 9/7, we got word that the man, whose rent has now been fully taken care of, went back to the doctor who re-examined him and stated that the problem was not nearly as serious as they had first believed. That was the same day I interfaced with Hurricane John and asked it to disperse some of its energy and please slow down. It did, from a category 4 to a 2, I'll bet lots of people were praying the same thing, and there are a lot of devout believers in Mexico. Thank you all for adding your prayers and energy to Mother Earth's and mine. My big question is, how did this Casbolt person know our email addresses? Never mind the shocking nature of his allegations. It feels like someone is really trying to massage my view of what is, and that is the one thing guaranteed to send me into red alert emergency lockdown defend against all comers mode. Sorry, that's simply how it is with me just now. The written word is something tangible yet way less charged than personal contact, which I apparently can't manage at this time. I can deal with the written word best right now. The whole reason I decided to participate in the first place is that this seemed like the first really pure and altruistic group endeavor I'd ever heard of since, say, the early days of the space program. It seems like the very best way I can help others, and the transformation in my own being astounds me. To have this endeavor threatened, from whatever source and for whatever reason, makes me sick in the core of my soul. I'm doing everything I can to manage my stress so I can truly understand what is going on and thus know how to appropriately respond. This is why I told you at the very beginning about having PTSD, because I was concerned that just this sort of thing would happen, to the detriment of us all. I feel incredibly protective of this mission, these people, all of them, and the things we're all learning. And the idea of this know-how in the wrong hands horrifies me. Yet whoever is originating all this had to have rather intimate access to our Group A security breach of the worst kind, and this has been an ongoing concern for me from the very beginning. I think the blog may have been a mistake. It seemed like almost a dare to the entire intel community, and I think no spy worth his dark glasses could resist attempting a crack at such a tempting, alluring target. CB and I are working up a SITREP/intel analysis to follow ASAP. It will be sent as an attachment to an email. If that's not okay, if you want it sent another way, let us know. What works best for me in such a situation is information, and the best medium for me to process information and correlate it with what I already know from this and other data streams is the written word. Thank you for your patience. I want to get to the bottom of this and understand it all. Namaste, wise owl. September 8, 2006, 1335 CDT. Dear First Among Equals. What follows is our joint assessment and analysis of the present situation as seen from our perspective. It is based on telephone, email, and IM conversations between us and yourselves, email exchanges between us, Mr. S and yourselves, the Casbolt letter, and communications from S to us, which we immediately forwarded unanswered to you. It is based on nocive and intuitive methods as well, and thus what we interpret may not be the complete picture. We've looked at the overall cumulus of information available to us many times, considering all possibilities, and this is what we've come up with. The grandfather of all concerns is how much of this technology has gotten out, and to whom? Who does Mr. H actually work for? And how did he get to be in such a sensitive position before anybody had received any CV or NDA from him? This looks like a professional intelligence operation of the highest quality combined with a security breach at a high level within and structurally endemic to this organization. Either that or it is an elaborate test for us, which we consider to be entirely possible, since it is hard to believe that fucks with your professional associations could be so badly blindsided. The primary problem appears to be a spectacular failure of internal security at a very basic level. The decision to place Mr. H in such a sensitive position before securing a signed NDA and a complete and fully substantiated CV was a poor one. Not only that, but there are 13 people in this group, and we haven't seen any documentation on any of them. The only CVs we've seen were the most recent one about RC and one before which everyone agreed was unsuitable. We think the blog was a mistake, practically an invitation for some enterprising young intelligence operative to have a crack at such a tempting target. There are people in that business who'd attempt it just to see if it could be done. Then there is plain old greed, which must not be ignored. And you yourselves have written in Between the Devil and the Returning Rock about how thoroughly our military and intelligence communities were compromised, about the presence of M.S. people on military bases on U.S. soil. Yet these organizations were invited subscribers to the blog. We understand that you are scientists and creative geniuses, and are finely focused on the investigative and development side of things, but perhaps have not before now needed to become personally involved with security as we would imagine the companies you were with previously would have had excellent internal security. And we well understand the nature of a true scientist is not only to discover but to share, compare notes, see what results everybody comes up with. Yet when it comes to developing a technology with the express purpose of saving billions of lives, security should be of paramount concern and should be in the hands of experts. Mr. S is of particular concern to us. His email to GA2, CC to us, dated August 28, 2006, looks like a set of legitimate questions a student would have about this rather exotic subject. However, they could also be the final, confirming kind of questions a mole would ask to be sure he had the information accurately interpreted and memorized. Possibilities, not certainties. Yesterday he's alleging to have been told that H was murdered, quits the group, then today he's asking for more modules. We shouldn't be allowing this guy anywhere near this organization and this information/technology. What concerns us most is the fact that Ed K. is discussing things he couldn't possibly have learned except from a leak from within this organization. Either that, or someone is doing a damned good job of monitoring what should be secure and private communication channels. That is an industry basic security measure. The reality is that today's world is full of people who wouldn't hesitate to steal this technology for profit or worse. Finally, who is James Casbolt and how does he know so much about this project? We understand that this was a sticking our necks out sort of venture, but that doesn't mean we should become shark bait because of poor security. That would be a complete waste of everything we're all working for. Mistakes have been made, but there are valuable lessons to be learned from all this. We need to learn from this and adjust our structure and practice accordingly. Knowledge must be applied to become wisdom. We trust the L, but they are not obligated to save us from our own foolishness. It is indeed our responsibility to defend our own biokind and sort out our own political and cultural differences. As we understand it, they are helping this project in an extraordinary way, but they have limits to which they must adhere. Let's not waste this opportunity to help our own planet and many others besides by allowing ourselves to be this vulnerable to penetration. We should be taking all available measures to secure this project because its premature exposure will nullify the effectiveness and thus thwart the very purpose for which all this is being done. It will put the possibility of BST into the reach of the enema, the man from the gateway, and every terrorist with access to the internet. Security should be comparable to that of the Manhattan Project. Instead, we have this present dilemma. Wise Owl and Cannonball. James Casbolt, the MI6 whistleblower, who was cleverly taken down from the internet and successfully silenced. Don't get me wrong, he's still alive from what I know, but his, sometimes quite revealing, website was successfully shut down. There are those who have written Casbolt off as a hoax because he had the fake pictures of Enlil and Nonner on his website together with some photos which was supposedly from Dulce underground base, but in fact were fake too. Unfortunately, this is often what happens to whistleblowers when they come close to the truth. Casbolt was fed fake pictures to discredit the rest of the relevant information on the website, and some researchers fell for the trick and started discredit him, instead of looking at the bigger picture. So the rumors of Casbolt being a hoax spread quickly over the internet and most people now wrote him off. Casbolt saw no other solution than to discontinue his website, unfortunately. It is true that Casbolt, just like he says in interviews and in his excellent book, Agent Buried Alive, he has been subjected to heavy mind control from within the government. He was subjected to a specific one called Project Mannequin, and he is apparently trained as an assassin. However, he has been working on breaking the control, which is not an easy task, and done his best to reveal his experiences. Once in a while, he has fallen back in line and had relapses, but that is to be expected. I, for one, am not discarding Casbolt as a hoax at all. He fits too well into the picture, and most of what he has been telling us is true. To his defense, he also apologized for the fake pictures on his website, admitting he had been tricked. But it was too little, too late, as it seems. What a shame. There is some quite interesting conversations, as I mentioned earlier, between SAALM members, ripped off a secure server, put on the internet, much of it by Casbolt himself, taken down, but then retrieved from the internet archives. Fortunately, people were able to download this information in time before it even disappeared from the Wayback Machine. I am not going to copy the whole thing here, as it can be conveniently read at bibliotecaplieliads.net. My next paper will continue the story about the wing makers, the Labyrinth group, the Courtroom, and how they have set up their great deception. Let's add the Anima problem and blank slate technology, BST, to the mix.